Thank you for joining us on Synthesis Workshop. On today's Research Spotlight episode, we're joined by Dr. Eva Maria Alvarez. Eva earned her bachelor's degree in Bolivia and her master's in molecular sciences from the University of Frederick Alexander in Germany, with a research stay at the University of Oxford. She subsequently earned her PhD at the Max Planck Institute. Currently, she's working as a postdoctoral researcher at Northwestern University in the Malapit group. And from there, I'll hand it over to you, Eva. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the kind introduction and the invitation to talk about our recent published work on site-selective electrochemical arene carbon-hydrogen amination. Aromatic carbon-hydrogen functionalization is defined as the exchange of hydrogen atoms bound to carbon atoms in an aromatic ring for functional groups. Due to the ubiquitous presence of carbon-hydrogen bonds in relevant organic molecules, derivatizing aromatic carbon-hydrogen bonds is a powerful synthetic approach to quickly generate complexity in the synthesis of organic molecules. The high abundance of carbon-hydrogen bonds in organic molecules is also responsible for an ongoing challenge in carbon-hydrogen functionalization reactions, selectivity. Consider the following example. If a single constitutional isomer of a celecoxib analog is desired, a strategy is needed to distinguish between different carbon-hydrogen bonds and target a single carbon-hydrogen bond. Of particular interest in drug development is the formation of aryl carbon-nitrogen bonds. Traditional methods for non-directed aromatic carbon-hydrogen amination rely on a sequential nitration reduction alkylation process, which suffers from limitations in site selectivity and substrate compatibility. Consequently, researchers have explored several alternative approaches utilizing transition metal catalysis. Catalytic cross-coupling reactions have become widely used in medicinal chemistry, with the largest category being the Suzuki-Miyaura and the Buchwald-Hardwick type using palladium catalysis. The Buchwald-Hardwick cross-coupling reaction between aryl halides and amines has attracted great interest in the pharmaceutical industry. New drugs have been discovered, such as ribociclib, erfanicib, abemaciclib, using this core reaction. Another appealing way of making carbon-nitrogen bonds is a Chem.Rev reaction. The resurgence of electrochemistry for organic synthesis has shown to be a powerful tool to discover and develop selective organic transformations. As such, many substrate-directed aromatic carbon-hydrogen aminations have been reported. However, their utility in non-directed selective aromatic carbon-hydrogen functionalization remains very limited. In 2013, Professor Yoshida reported the first electrochemical arene carbon-hydrogen amination via anodic oxidation of the arene to radical cation, followed by carbon-nitrogen bond formation with pyridine as the nucleophile and co-solvent, leading to the formation of aryl pyridinium salts or zinc salts. This electrochemical reactivity was further demonstrated with various designed amine nucleophiles and nitrogen-containing heteroarenes to generate aryl-amine products as a result of subsequent chemical reactions. In the past decade, novel photocatalytic methods have been developed to enhance selectivity and expand substrate scope. Overall, carbon-hydrogen amination by direct reaction of arenes and alkylamines under photoredox catalysis through ammonium radical intermediates inspire our electrochemistry project. Mechanistically, a single electron transfer reduction of redox-active species such as N-chloro or N-fluoroammonium salts and NF-pyridinium reagent generates the reactive aminium radical. This highly electrophilic species will then undergo regioselective radical addition with the arene to forge a carbon-nitrogen bond formation in a redox process. We hypothesize whether the generation of a reactive dicationic nitrogen center radical through an electroreductive strategy for aromatic carbon-hydrogen amination was possible using commercially available NF-ammonium reagents. Despite the pioneering work of Professor Yoshida in electrochemical aromatic carbon-hydrogen amination through anodic oxidation strategy, there are a few downsides to this methodology. The scope is limited to electronically activated arenes. The electrochemical setup consists of a divided cell, which can be considered a potential practical limitation, and the reaction only offers moderate to high selectivity on arenes with a strong electronic bias. Thus, we propose that polarity reversal strategy from the electrochemical amination reported by Yoshida could lead to an arene carbon-hydrogen amination reaction that is more regioselective and broader in arene scope. We hypothesized that cathodic reduction of an NX reagent, X being a leaving group, would allow us to access dicationic nitrogen-centered radicals that can be exploited for arene carbon-hydrogen amination to form arene quaternary ammonium salts. As we begin to approach our project, we explore NFSI and various N-fluoroammonium salts, including N-fluoropyridinium and select fluors 1 and 2, as a source of nitrogen radical cation with fluorobenzene as the model substrate for electrochemical arene carbon-hydrogen amination, using an electrozyme, graphite, and platinum mesh electrode in an undivided cell setup. The use of fluorobenzene as the arene substrate is highly notable, as this substrate and other electron-deficient starting materials are less susceptible to undergo oxidation. Consequently, electron-deficient substrates do not undergo productive amination under Yoshida's conditions, in addition to several photocatalytic amination reactions involving arene oxidation. All the N-fluoroammonium reagents undergo reduction as described in the following table of half-peak potentials versus ferrocene as a standard. However, we were very pleased to observe that the aminium radical cations generated from select fluor gave the desired amination product. Importantly, a regioselectivity of up to 23:1:1 para-ortho-meta regioisomers of the arene dapconium salt was obtained by the electrolysis of select fluor 2 and fluorobenzene, resulting in a quantitative yield. With our preliminary results, experimental mechanistic studies were performed. Intramolecular kinetic isotope effect was investigated by performing an electrochemical amination reaction with 1,3,5,3-deuterated benzene as the substrate. Analysis of the crude product show a KIE of 1.1, suggesting that the aromatic carbon-hydrogen bond cleavage is not the rate-limiting step. We next investigated the role of triethylamine in the reaction. Triethylamine with a half-peak potential of 0.50 volts versus ferrocene acts as a base to deprotonate the Wheelan intermediate and generate the arene dapconium final product. For reactions at high triethylamine loading, for example 5 equivalents, the reaction didn't produce any product, as anodic oxidation of triethylamine outcompetes the anodic oxidation of crucial reaction intermediates. By performing the reaction in presence of TEMPO as radical scavenger, a decreased yield is observed from 98% to 26%, but TEMPO doesn't completely suppress the reaction. In collaboration with Professor Osvaldo Gutierrez and Remy Lalisse at Texas A&M University, DFT calculations were performed to further investigate the crucial intermediates in our selective carbon-hydrogen amination reaction using toluene as a substrate. The computational studies indicate an N-nitrogen radical-cation-pi interaction after the cathodic generation of nitrogen radical dicationic species. Interaction energies of the DAFCO radical cation intermediates at different positions above the aromatic ring support addition to the para position of toluene. Moreover, these energy calculations are in line with experimentally observed regioselectivity. It's worth noting that this reaction tolerates benzylic carbon-hydrogen bonds, as previous reports on nitrogen radical dication generation from select fluor have shown a hydrogen atom transfer process with benzylic hydrogens. In addition, DFT studies support the intermediacy of a nitrogen radical cation-pi interaction followed by carbon-nitrogen bond formation as a more favorable process in comparison to the transition state energy for a benzylic hydrogen atom transfer process. To understand and predict the regioselectivity of the reaction, the Fukui indices were calculated for selected substrates and found to be a major parameter in predicting the observed regioselectivity of this reaction. Specifically, the carbon in an arene with the highest Fukui index undergoes carbon-hydrogen bond amination. Additionally, steric effect may also play a role, as observed in toluene, where the regioselectivity of 5:1 para-meta regioisomers was obtained, and none of the orthoaminated product was observed. Intrigued by the operationally simple protocol that combines arene substoichiometric amounts of triethylamine and select fluor, which also acts as our electrolyte, we then went on to cyclic voltammogram studies for the elucidation of the ongoing mechanism. The CV studies were carried out using a platinum disc working electrode. From a solution of select fluor 2, CV analyses were performed with an increasing amount of arene concentration using fluorobenzene as representative arene. The resulting CV profile showed an anodic shift upon increasing arene concentration, a distinct characteristic of a charge transfer mechanism between the electrochemically generated dicationic nitrogen radical with arene through a reversible nitrogen radical-cation-pi interaction. Charge transfer complexes are non-covalent adducts comprised of an electron donor and an electron acceptor associated through weak molecular interactions arising from transfer of charge. In addition to that, an oxidation profile of the individual components of our reaction system was collected in a 0.1 molar solution of tetrabutylammonium PF6 in acetonitrile, which serves as evidence that the triethylamine is easily oxidized under our standard reaction conditions and could potentially act as a sacrificial reductant via anodic oxidation to facilitate the reduction of select fluor. The cyclic voltammograms for the oxidation and reduction profile were measured using glassy carbon working electrode. As shown on this slide, both select fluor 1 and 2 produce an irreversible single electron reduction at minus 0.60 and minus 0.75 volts, respectively. Interestingly, the excess aryl dapconium salts have a very negative redox potential and thus remain inert toward electrochemical reduction under our standard conditions. However, arsenic cations at negative potentials, quaternary ammonium ions absorb electrostatically onto the electrode surface, and the electron transfer could occur. Encouraged by the CV findings, we later explored the reduction of the aryl dapconium salts via photoredox-mediated radical generation. This finding, along with the computational study, suggests the following proposed mechanism. Select fluor undergoes cathodic reduction to generate a nitrogen radical dication that participates in a charge transfer complex with arene substrate, followed by the carbon-nitrogen bond formation. The radical intermediate B undergoes anodic oxidation to form the Wheelan intermediate. Subsequent deprotonation of the Wheelan intermediate by the triethylamine acting as base yields the aryl dapconium product. Further studies to shine a more thorough light on the true nature of the rate-determining step are still ongoing in our laboratory. I have included a video to show how easy the setup of the reaction is. Our undergrad Chris Rapala will proceed to add the select fluor 2 to a vial loaded with a stir bar, followed by addition of the arene, in this case fluorbiprophene methyl ester, and acetonitrile. No additional electrolyte is needed. The select fluor being a charged species acts as both reagent and electrolyte. Subsequently, the triethylamine is added through the septum of the electrosync cap containing the electrodes. The cap is then attached to the electrosync instrument. Now, on the menu options, we select constant current. We set the current to 1 mA and the total charge transfer to 5 Faraday per mole. Once we hit start, the reaction begins. At the end of the reaction, we take a crude NMR of our reaction mixture with mesitylene as internal standard for quantitative NMR. With suitable electrochemical reaction conditions in hand, we started to study the arene scope and isolate our product as the corresponding aryl dapconium salt or aryl piperazine. Aryl dapconium salts can be easily converted into aryl piperazines in a one-pot procedure, where after electrochemical reaction the crude mixture is heated in an aqueous solution of sodium thiosulfate or under mild temperature with potassium cyanide in acetonitrile. Depending on the use of aminating reagents, N-methyl aryl piperazines can be obtained from select fluor 2 and free aryl piperazines from select fluor 1, starting from their corresponding aryl dapconium salts. Various mono and disubstituted arenes with varying electron-rich and electron-deficient substituents gave their corresponding aryl dapconium salt adducts in excellent yields and predictable selectivities. Among the simple monosubstituted arenes, the para position is favored. For disubstituted arenes, where the para position is unavailable, the carbon-hydrogen bond ortho to the more electron-donating substituent is preferentially functionalized. For multi-arene systems, the arene with higher electron density is functionalized. Importantly, various diversely decorated heterocycles including thiophene, pyridine, bipyridine, terpyridine, indazole, and imidazopyridine undergo highly efficient carbon-hydrogen amination reactions. This is notable as many of these Lewis-basic nitrogen heterocycles are commonly used as ligands in metal-catalyzed carbon-hydrogen functionalization reactions, or can result in the inhibition of transition metal catalysis. The application of this methodology for late-stage functionalization of various pharmaceuticals was also explored, and we are pleased to see the highly efficient and selective amination of multi-aromatic and complex pharmaceuticals including fenofibrate, fulviprofen methyl ester, bifonazole, and acelecoxib derivative. Moreover, when aryl dapconium salts are treated with an appropriate nucleophile, aryl piperazines bearing the nucleophile can be obtained in high yields through an SN2 reactivity. In the presence of a strong base such as sodium methoxide, a vinylated quaternary ammonium salt is generated in a E2 mechanism. By merging SN2 and E2, N-methyl aryl piperazines are obtained as previously exemplified in the substrate scope. Photocatalysis has recently emerged as a versatile platform for the development of new synthetic methodologies. Thus, we explore the activation of aryl dapconium salts under photoredox conditions based on precedent work of quaternary ammonium salts, which are known to exhibit single electron transfer reduction to generate aryl radicals under photoredox conditions. However, a multi-step reaction is required to synthesize quaternary ammonium salts from an unfunctionalized arene, and methods for achieving phosphorylation or arylation reactions remain unexplored. The resulting aryl radical generated in situ under photoredox catalysis is trapped by triethyl phosphate or N-methylpyrrole to afford carbon, phosphorus, and carbon-carbon bond formation respectively. The synthetic versatility of the aryl dapconium salts is shown to access diverse aryl piperazine architectures. Despite the high electrophilicity of the two positively charged nitrogen atoms on the aryl dapconium compounds, a chemoselective cleavage of the exocyclic carbon sp2 nitrogen bond over ring opening is highlighted through photoredox catalysis. Remarkably, the functionalization of aryl dapconium salts is catalyzed by phenothiazine under purple LEDs to access aryl carbon-carbon bond formation in the absence of a base. On the other hand, aromatic carbon-phosphorus bond formation was most effective using iridium PPY3 as the photocatalyst under blue light irradiation. For some examples, moderate yields were obtained due to sluggish conversion. These telescope transformations are highly promising for a selective aromatic carbon-hydrogen functionalization strategy. To summarize today's talk, we report the first electroreductive aromatic carbon-hydrogen amination reaction. This electrochemical carbon-hydrogen amination reaction demonstrates exceptional site selectivity, broad applicability to various arenes, and compatibility with late-stage functionalization, leading to the formation of various aryl dapconium salts in one single step. In addition, we have established the synthetic utility of aryl dapconium salts as precursors to generate various aryl piperazines and as aryl radical precursors in a tandem photocatalytic carbon-hydrogen phosphorylation and arylation of small molecule pharmaceuticals, representing their potential for future development in the area of selective arene carbon-hydrogen functionalization. Lastly, I would like to thank Professor Christian Malapit and all the lab members of the Malapit lab, particularly Griffin Stewart and Mohamed Ullah, for the support on this project, without whom this work wouldn't have been possible. I would like to thank our collaborators, Professors Osvaldo Gutierrez and Remy Lalisse, for providing DFT calculations and helpful scientific discussions. I would like to thank our funding agencies, and thank you very much, Synthesis Workshop, for inviting me for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you for tuning in for this Research Spotlight episode, and thank you to Eva for a very interesting talk with a great experimental demo. If you enjoyed the episode, you can support us by subscribing and telling your peers about this podcast, and feel free to send us any questions or comments you have. Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date, and see you all next time.